And welcome back, everyone, to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. From Eric, we have we still have a lot of K&D members you've given me. I've done the original 5. Now we're into the more offshoot characters. Probably won't be, by the way, I initially was going to do Lizzie, Nigel's ex-girlfriend, but I quickly came to the conclusion I can't do that. There's just not enough there as a character for me to be able to do a team for. So unfortunately, she's never really going to get a team. That's just my decision. That being said, number 86, who is part of the K&D, obviously. She is I know she's had a decommissioning too, but she is a loyal member to the K&D, but she's also a hot-headed little Irish girl who has a extreme hatred of all things boys. And that is a big part of her character. She, though, is still a tough cookie, so let's just get into this. Because of her hatred of boys, I knew a lot of female Pokemon were probably going to be on this team. That being said, she is a bit of a hypocrite, too, and I'll get to why in just on the next mon. So I think her starting mon has to be a female mon, and let's go with the female mon, the queen, if you will, Nidoqueen. Now, why did I go Nidoran or Nidorina? Well, when it comes to the K&D members, because they're kids, I don't like giving them fully evolved teams. Doesn't make sense to me. They're still growing, they're still learning, they're still immature to certain degrees. So, and she definitely is. So they're not all fully evolved. But her starter, like her main, and this, unlike some other teams, this one's her ace. This makes sense. It is the queen. So, like, it's Nidoqueen. So this makes complete sense to me to be a Pokemon that would be her, like, main Pokemon partner. Ironically, her second Pokemon, which is not her starter, is a starter, Brione. Now, Brione, why is Brione important to for her to be, because she's a hypocrite? Because she is a bit of a hypocrite. Despite the fact that she's so anti-boy, she constantly has mentioned a couple times that she has a crush on number 4, Agent 19th Century, who's also very sexist in the other way. She has shown that she's kind of a hypocrite in many ways, which would make sense being a young girl, not really meaning what they're saying, or any young kid, really. But more to the point, why is Brione important for that? Well, because despite its appearance and most Primarina's appearances, I didn't give her a full Primarina, obviously, but looking like a girl, in a ballet, tutu, all that. Briones and Primarinas and Pavos are 87.5% female, or sorry, male, 87.5% male. So, yeah, I think she doesn't even realize that this Brione is a male. That I think would be the funny part of it. Now, I could have also gone like a Curlier or a Gardevoir for this team because those also have a male to female ratio. But ultimately, yeah, I think that would be funny. Now, to go more like, no, screw the boys. Girls can do anything the boys can do, and blah blah blah. Boys are stupid. I think she would probably lean towards some things that boys naturally would like. For example, bugs. And what better bug to go with than Golisopod? Now, why Golisopod? Well, if we actually take a look at her, like, wrong button. There we go. Look at her design real quick. You can see she has this like samurai-inspired helmet on her head. And Golisopod very much has like samurai-inspired elements to it. Very feudal looking in some ways. They do meditate and see like warriors. I always liked Golisopod was always a really cool mon to me. I used it on my first playthrough and I loved it. So I think that works well. And to follow in suit with that, we'll actually go with the 5th spot real quick. Hakamo. Now, Jangmo actually has probably the most resemblance to her in terms of, like, he actually has a hat that looks or a headdress that looks almost exactly what she has. But again, because some of her mon aren't fully evolved, I think her having a Hakamo instead would make more sense because, yeah, she's got the mon that kind of has that headdress. She just hasn't fully evolved it yet because, she's not mature enough. She probably isn't as capable as she thinks she is, all that. Now, that being said, for all female Pokemon, you also can't go with an all-female team or majority female team. And 1 second here, we're just going to go down here real quick. There we go. Nidoqueen's right there. Without having the team sweeper itself, the menace, the legend that even Cthulhu itself fears. That's right. The tank of the milk. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, like, seriously, and milk tanks are powerful. Like, the milk tank Pokemon is not a weak Pokemon. There's a reason there's a reason if you're not prepared, it will sweep your team. It's got 100 base speed, and for which, let me actually look up milk tank stats real quick, because for third Pokemon to be fighting in the game, like gym, this thing is unnecessarily powerful, like ridiculously powerful. Let's see here. So, where are you, normal types? And there we go, normal. So milk tanks, milk tanks. The tanks that are milked are, there we go. Get this. Have 95 HP, 100 speed, 80 attack, 105 defense, 40 special attack, and 70 special defense. Like, they're not infallible monsters. God, no. But with 105 defense, straight defense, 100 speed, 95 HP for just the third gym, and 80 attack with rollout? There's a reason Milk Tank is a monster. So yeah, and I could see that being kind of like when she's raging out, this is the mon she sends out and just kind of rolls over people. And then finally, she harbors a dangerous, insidious secret. She is a rainbow monkey fanatic. And so Pansear made the list. Why Pansear? It's the fire type. She's a fiery redhead with a temper. Makes sense. So that leaves this team in a weird state. Now, if this were a fully evolved team, this team would be doing a lot better by a large margin. You'd have a water fairy type, first off, adding the fairy type onto the team and losing some weaknesses and gaining some weaknesses and gaining some strengths. You'd have a fully evolved pseudo on the team and a fully evolved fire type. As it stands, though, this team type-wise is still weak to water from both the fire and your Nidoqueen. It's weak to, there we go, it's weak to ice, again, Nidoqueen, but also your Hakamo. It's weak to psychic with, again, Nidoqueen and your Hakamo. It's weak to ground, this time with your Pansear and ironically, your Nidoqueen, because ground is just neutral against itself and poison is weak to ground. It's also weak to rock with your Pansear and your Golisopod, as water doesn't resist rock. 2 water types are weak to electric, and your flying and fighting type, your fighting and bug type are weak to flying. Now, on the trade-off, though, this team has a lot of strengths to it. 3 of them are strong against fire types, with your 2 water and your 1 ground. 5 out of your 6 mon are strong against rock types, which, actually, no, they're not. Why did I write 5 out of 6? That makes no sense. Yeah, no, 4 out of 6. 4 out of 6 of your mons are strong against rock. Why did I think 5? I have no idea. Now, 3 out of your 6 mon are also strong to steel against steel types with your fire, your fighting, and your ground type, respectively. You've got 3 mon on this team that are strong against grass with your poison, your bug, and your fire type. You got 2 mon on this team with your fire and your fighting type that are strong against ice. And technically, you got a 3rd with Milk Tank knowing rollout. You also got 2 mon on the team that are strong in dark with your bug and fighting type. And you got 2 mon on the team that are strong against ground with your 2 water types. So, long and short of it, how well does this team do? Well, honestly, this team should manage to handle the Kanto gyms, no problem. There is a catch-22 with Nidoran, though, because they changed when Nidoran can learn Double Kick, which is stupid. But because it's an older show, all that, I decided she has one of the older school Nidorans, so it can learn Double Kick. That being said, that means it can clear Brock, no problem, because of Moonstone evolution and leveling. You should have your Nidoqueen by 2nd gym in almost every circumstance, which means you can honestly handle Misty even if you have a weakness to water, no problem, because you got the bulk on your side. Then Brionne should be able to handle it. Surge, even though you got 2 water types, Nidoqueen's immune to electric, so it's going to be able to just cleave through Surge, no problem. All the other gyms, no real issue. You're not overly strong against Koga, but you'll have a near full team at that point to handle them. You do have some weaknesses to Psychic, but ultimately you've got Golisopod there. You've also got Milk Tank. You should be able to handle it. Honestly, you should be able to handle Blaine, no problem. You should be able to handle Giovanni, frankly, without too much issue. all the Elite Four members, really there isn't much of a problem there. Lorelei, you've got enough mon on the team to, even with weaknesses, to be able to get through her, I think. You would struggle a bit, no doubt, but I think you can get through her. Should be able to get through Bruno, even with this team, without that much difficulty. Even Agatha, if your Milk Tank has Scrappy, shouldn't be a problem. However, you run into a problem against any Dragon type trainer there is. You have no strength against Dragon types. And even if they're not fully evolved, you do, except for the fact that Brianna should learn Disarming Voice, that's it. And Brianna's not fully evolved, so it's going down pretty quick. It doesn't even have the Fairy type to avoid something like Dragon Rage. And then you got to deal with Blue, and Blue's team is too balanced for you to handle. Pidgeot has already got a advantage against your Golisopod and your Hakamo. It's going to be immune to ground type moves. The Alakazam is going to be able to cleave through good 2/3 of your team, well, 1/3 of your team. Then Rhydon. Now, Rhydon you should be able to handle without too much difficulty, provided, you're not missing a couple of your strongest guys. But then you're either going to be dealing with a Gyarados, Executor, or Arcanine, and then whatever the starter is. And every one of those you have a weakness to on some level. You have a weakness to water. Fire you're not as in big trouble with, but at that point you're probably going to have lost about half your team minimum. And grass, you've got one mon that's guaranteed weak to grass with Brionne. A lot of mon that are neutral. And then whatever their starter is, if it's freaking Blastoise, you're going to run into a problem. If it's Venusaur, you're going to run into a problem because it can Leech Seed or whatever. Yeah, I'm not going to say it's impossible. Let me put it that way. But I don't think it's likely. I'll put it as a maybe. Unfortunately, to speed this through because I know my battery's running low, the rest of this, Johto, you'll get through all of Johto, frankly, without any difficulty until you hit Claire. Claire is a roadblock. And it's not even her Dragonair that's the problem. It's the damn Kingdra. You have no answer for that whatsoever. Your best bets on this team are Nidoqueen and, oddly enough, Milk Tank. Because even Golisopod, you have nothing for that. Or maybe getting a lucky Dragon attack in with Hakamo, but that's it. Like, otherwise you are effed. So if by some miracle you are able to get past Claire, which I'm not even sure you can, you actually then run into a problem with almost the entirety of the Elite Four. Will alone has 2 Xatu, which are flying and psychic, and a bunch of psychic types. And that's covering a huge basis of your team's problems that they have to deal with. I'm not even sure you can get past Will. I'm not sure you can get past Koga, to be honest. I'm not even sure you can get past Karen. And even if you could, you're stopgapped at Lance, because now he has 3 fully evolved Dragonites, a Charizard, a Gyarados, and an Aerodactyl. I really think you're done at that point. So Johto's a no-go. Hoenn, honestly, you should be fine. Well, let me rephrase this. You actually should be fine up until Winona. You should be able to get through Roxanne again, no problem. You should even be able to get through Brawley, Watson, Flannery you can actually cleave through, quite frankly. And even your dad without issue. Flannery, though, is going to be a problem. Flying type is a problem for this team. 2 of your stronger mon are going to be weak to flying types. And then the ones that aren't, like, again, Nidoqueen's ground types, they're all immune to them. So you are going to be struggling throughout this entire battle. If you can make it, great. But then you got to deal with Liza and Tate, who, I'm going to be honest, you are still going to struggle a little bit with. Not as much thanks to your water typings, but still. And then Juan and Wallace, well, say goodbye to Pansear and Nidoqueen. They're done. And at that point, you only have 2 water types. Only one was fully evolved. Milk Tank, which can only do so much on its own. Hakamo. And some of those Mondo Ice moves. Honestly, I think you're done at the 8th gym if you can get all the way there. And even if you can't, you might be able to get through Nate, Phoebe, Glacia, though, is a problem, and then you're stuck at Drake. You can't become champion of Hoenn. You also, I don't think you got become champion of Sinnoh. I think you make it to Candace, personally. But once you make it to Candace, you just don't have enough mon on this team that are really going to be able to do much against Candace. Again, unless you can get some rollouts going and just keep them going with Milk Tank, get its stats up. Nidoqueen's going down quick. Panseer doesn't have the strength. Hakumo might get a hit in, but that's it. You only got Galissapod, Brione, and Milk Tank. I don't think you can manage that. Even if you can, you're still going to have to deal with Aaron. The Voctor's no problem, I don't think. Well, no big problem. You can manage Voctor. Surprisingly, Aaron's one of those gym leaders that are Elite Four members because he's bug. You don't have a really good answer for. You should be able to get through, surprisingly, the other two, Bertha and Flint, without a huge issue, I think. But then Lucian and then Cynthia, like you are stopped dead in their tracks. Unova, you honestly should be able to handle both versions fine until you get to Skyla. Then flying is going to be problematic, but not as problematic as I think it could be. You'll have some decent leveling at that point. You are going to be stuck at either Bryson or Iris and Drake, or stuck at Iris and Drake. I frankly, even though you're strong against ice, you're also weak against ice. It's a catch-22 type weakness in this case. And honestly, I don't think you can even get past into the Elite Four, because even if you get past Drake in Black and White 2, you got to deal with Marlon, who's got water advantage over you, and you have no strong mon against water. So it's just not a good way for you. Even if you manage somehow miraculously to get to the champion, both Alder and Iris would waste you, I think. Because you just don't have, you have one weak mid-stage dragon. That's it for Iris. And you just don't have any good answers for most of what Alder's going to throw out. The Panseer isn't going to last very long at all. So, yeah, you can't become champion in Unova. Kalos, you'd make it all the way to Wolfren until then you struggle with Wolfren. Even getting a rollout going, that Avalon's got huge defense. So you're going to struggle. Plus, one of your hitters who could do something, Hakumo, is weak to ice. And Nidoqueen, your heavy hitters, is also weak to ice. So no go there, I don't think. And then Diantha, I don't see it. I really don't see it. I don't think it's necessarily impossible. I just don't think it's likely. So maybe because the Halucha alone is going to have to be even your Milk Tank. And luckily, Sword Dance, and Flying Press, and Poison Jab, and an X Scissor. The fact that you use X Scissor is really problematic. Granted, Poison and Ground, I think, both resist Bug. But even the Flying Press being somewhat only neutral to to Nidoqueen, still going to hurt with a Swords Dance Enhanced. Then, even if it dies, the Tarantrums are going to take the Nidoqueen down. If the Nidoqueen goes down, your biggest hitters are gone. Or one of your biggest hitters is gone. Galissapod is strong, but not strong enough to take on that entire team. Even if that goes down, you get the Auroras down, say, like a rollout, then you got to deal with the Goodra, which is a tank. So that's not going to happen. So, no, Diantha's a no-go. Galar, you'd make it all the way down. The thing about it is you can actually make it through a lot of these regions, through most of them, like through most of the regions on their own. But once you get to the final gym or the Elite Four, you're just done. Raihan is your problem here because you'll make it through, honestly, all the gyms, no issue. Milo, Nessa's going to be a little difficult with your ground typing, but you got enough bulk, I think you can make it. And you got your neutrals and other water attacks, so I think you should be fine. And then Kobu is actually easy in this one because you got water and ground, so you're perfect against fire. Everything else, everything else is fine, but Raihan, because he's got a Duraludon and a Flygon on the team with Earthquake, running Sandstorms, all that, and you only got really so much strength against ground. Like, you're good against ground, but if your Galissapod and Brione go down, you have a problem. Even if you managed it, Leon's going to just cleave through you. He's got to cleave. The Aegislash alone is problematic. Mind you should know a ground type move or maybe like a Fire Punch at that point on Nidoqueen, so you should be able to handle it. But then Dragapult comes out. Mind you, it's not as bad. Ground Poison is not a bad typing to go up against that thing because it's going to be immune to the Thunderbolt it knows and resistant to the Fire Blast. The Dragon Breath it knows, and I believe it's Shadow Claw. Either you take it down but have nothing left, or it's going to take you down but barely have anything left. The problem after that is it is going to be able to cleave through like the next two, the Brione and the Galissapod. It'll take down the Panseer in one go. The Hakumo might go down in one go. So yeah, it might survive with like barely anything, but it's still going to survive, and that thing's a team sweeper. And I'll always say I don't know why that's not his ace instead of a Charizard. And even if you do kill it, you still got to get through the Haxorus. You then get through either the Seismitoad, Mr. Rhyme, or whatever the third one is I can never remember, depending on what the starter he has is, and then the Charizard. You can't beat Leon. And the last but not least, you actually struggle right out the gate with Katie, of all people. Now, mind you, because of the leveling, you actually could have Nidoqueen at level like 16, whatever evolves, right then and there. So, you'd struggle, but you'd have the bulk to get through it. Then after that, you wouldn't struggle to Grusha because of the ice typing. And unfortunately, that might be a scenario where you're kind of done. But just because you have the Altar, you have the freaking Titan. Yeah, Beartic is extremely powerful too. It's got a lot of attack. It'd be tough. Now, if you did make it, you would, ironically, Rika wouldn't actually be the big problem here. I actually think you can get through Rika without that much difficulty. It's then Poppy, even though you've got strength against Steel on this team with a fire type and a fighting type and a ground type. The only one who's really going to be relevant in the fight is the ground poison type, and only half because it's got ground typing to it. And then Larry's a problem for a change because of his flying typing. And then Hassel's a problem because of the dragon typing. So long and short of it, you cannot become champion in any region save maybe Kanto with this team. If this team were fully evolved, it would be a little bit of a different story. For example, with Primarina on the team, you might actually be able to beat Lance in Johto. And with a fully evolved Hakamo as well, or Como as well. So that would become a maybe. You wouldn't be able to really do much. I don't think much would change, but you might be able to get past Drake in Hoenn. Cynthia, I don't think you'd still be able to beat. I don't think you'd still be able to beat Alder. But you might be able to beat Iris because you'd have a fully evolved Pseudo Dragon and a Panthera type with the Primarina. Diantha now becomes a solid maybe. And I would still say probably no on Leon, but it's a lot better of a fight. Either way, I digress. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.